Welcome to the 5% Club with your hosts Maria Mejia and David Pataki as they dig deep into what it takes to start, grow, and take your business to new levels. They do this by demystifying common mistakes, roadblocks, and pitfalls by handing you strategies, tips, and hacks. Get your pen and paper ready because here they are.
Welcome everyone to another episode. This is your imported accountant, Maria Mejia, and today with me is somebody new. Who are you, new person?
Hi everyone, my name's Alicia Prudhomme, and I'm a bookkeeper with your Financial Success Matrix.
She is our amazing bookkeeper.
Oh, thank you.
Right here at the Matrix. So, yes. So it's great to have you on here today, Alicia. David was not able to make it with us today as he is feeling a bit under the weather. You know, that's not an excuse I make, even though I'm feeling slightly sick. So if you're watching the recording, I will be sucking on cough drops just to make sure I don't die.
Oh, well, I'm very excited to be part of this today.
Awesome. So great to have you with us. So today we kind of thought that we would talk a little bit about, taxes, what you can expect from taxes, common tax questions, and maybe just some tips that Alicia knows that I might not know. So maybe I'll learn something today.
I guess we'll find out.
So yeah, we'll see how smart I am today. Excuse me.
Well, I definitely
let's start with
some questions. I have some common questions that I think would be beneficial for us to go over. Anybody out there that's just looking for a little bit more general information? One of the most common questions, I would say, for anybody who doesn't really know much about taxes, when do I have to file my taxes?
So everyone has ingrained in their subconscious mind April 30th. That is the day that your taxes are due. That is when you need. So if you are just an employed person, you don't have anything too fancy going on in your life, then April 30th is when you have to file your taxes. And if you have any taxes due, that is when they also need to be paid. If you filed and you didn't know you had to pay, you can't pay until later, you will be charged a penalty and interest. The story is a little bit different if you are self-employed, that it will be June 15th. That's when you have to file by, but your taxes are still due on April 30th. So we don't get a break there. We still got to pay our taxes the same time as everyone else. Yeah. And sometimes the dates will fall either on weekends or other public holidays, as they say. Then it will be the next business day. So for example, this year, I believe the 30th is on a Saturday or Sunday. It's on a weekend. And so they aren't due until the Monday after, which I don't know what the exact date is on that, but whatever the Monday after that is.
The Monday after that would be May 2nd.
Yep. So they're due May 2nd. You got two extra days, but don't tell that to your accountant because they might get mad at you. I know some accountants are like, no, my taxes are due on the 1st of April. So talk to your tax preparer if you're planning on using one.
Well, it's always good to get ahead of the game, right? You don't want to be rushing around last minute.
For sure.
So what happens if you file your taxes after the deadline?
Like I previously said, if you pay after, you'll be charged a penalty and interest on top of that. And if you file late, that's an extra penalty. And it all depends on how much taxes you owe at the end of the year. If you actually don't owe any taxes and you're expecting a refund, you won't be charged a penalty or fee. And you could potentially get an extra interest on top of your refund, but it'll be very, very minimal. It'll be like a fraction of a percent, so it's not even worth it. File your taxes on time is the lesson of that.
Important for sure. So for the average person that is going to file their taxes, the most common tax slip that they would need to provide, either if they're doing the taxes themselves or if they're having an accountant do it for them, would be the T4 slip. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's the most common.
And so what kind of information do we find on that slip?
So with the T4 slip, it is, your statement of income. It has the amount of wages your employer paid you, as well as your withholdings. So, the taxes they withheld, the EI and the CPP, also known as, the unemployment and the old age stuff, as well as anything else that they might have withhold. For example, some people have union dues that their employer pays for them, as well as medical insurance that will be reported on there. And if your business does donations on your behalf, that will be reported on there, and those will be claimed as deductions as well. So there's a lot of information on there. Something else I just thought of. So for last year, taxes, meaning the 2020 taxes. So for those who are doing taxes, this year is considered 2021. So last year's 2020. For 2020 tax slips for the T4s, each month your income was reported on separate little boxes there. And that was used to determine if you were eligible for like the CERB and the other COVID benefits. So that might pop up again this year, since CERB is continuing on into 21 and to 22. So if you do see a lot more boxes with numbers in them, don't be worried. You can always check the back of your T4, look up the number box, and it will tell you right there what it is, and if that box number needs to be reported elsewhere on your tax return.
Okay, that's great. And it's really good to know that if you're not sure what a box is, like you said, if you turn it around, it has a list of all of the boxes and what they mean. So if anybody is wondering, well, what does this number mean? Where's this coming from? All you have to do is turn it around, which is great.
Yep.
So when filling out your taxes, there are opportunities to apply credits to your tax return. So what would you say are the most common credits that are being filed that people claim?
So some of the most common ones are donations and medical expenses. Those are the top two and the easiest ones that basically 100% of the people will have. So if you had to go to the doctors, if you had to fill out a prescription medication, or if you had to get something like crutches or braces and things like that, you can claim them. Your health insurance, I kind of deep dive on this, I believe on a Facebook Live or another podcast where I answered this similar question, as well as, your donations. If you gave tithes to a church, or if you donated to a registered charity, they'll give you a tax statement saying how much was donated and how much of that is actually eligible for a tax break. Another common one is for either older people or people who have to take care of someone with a disability. It's called the caregiver one. So if you do qualify, make sure you check that box and you are given that credit, because, if you do a lot of work to care for someone, you need that extra tax help. And that also goes for, people with children. Make sure you check the box and that you've claimed your kids, so that the government knows that, you're working hard to raise people. So have that. One for younger people can be the student loan interest, as well as tuition paid if they go to school. Make sure you get those statements and you claim those credits, because most of those can be carried forward into the next year. So if you don't need all of your donations or your medical expenses for this year, you can carry it forward to next year. If you don't need to claim all your student tuition or your student loan, you can carry it forward to next year, or you can even give it to another family member, such as, your partner, your spouse, or even your parents. So you gotta, keep that in mind as well, especially if you file with other people in your household. Like, oh, if I am not using up all my credits, can I transfer that to someone else so that they can decrease their taxes? So overall, your household will be paying less taxes.
Right. And I mean, all of these credits really are aimed at helping Canadians, right? And for benefiting everybody with all of the social programs that we have. So it's really important to understand the types of credits that you can claim when filing your taxes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And there's a lot more than the ones that, I talked about. And sometimes each year they'll add something or they'll take something away. So definitely stay on top of any announcements for tax credits. So for the tax year 21 and 22, you will be able to claim if you traveled, in air quotes, if you traveled within Canada, if you took a trip to, say Quebec in 21 or 22, you can claim a portion of like the hotel fees, and if you went to like a museum or something else, it's the government's way of helping people to keep the impact of COVID minimal for the tourism industry. So some tax credits like that come and go. So obviously keep an eye open, an ear to the ground. Shoot off a quick email to your accountant saying, hey, are there any new tax credits I should have in mind? And what kind of documentation do you need to be able to claim those credits?
Yeah, and like you said, it's important to reach out to your accountant to find out all of the most up-to-date information. It's really great if you can have a resource like that to make sure that you are making the most out of your return.
Right.
So let's say you filed your taxes and instead of getting a return back, money back, you end up owing. So how would you go about paying the government for that? How does that all work?
So I highly suggest, if you're able to pay the full amount, pay the full amount right away. That way you can minimize any fees or interest that you owe to them. If you are not able to pay them all at once when it's due, call the CRA. There's a designated line that you can call to talk about any amount due to them. Call them, let them know your situation, and they do this on a case-by-case basis where they'll talk to you, figure out how much you can afford, either each month or week, and they will set up like a direct withdrawal from your bank account. That way you're always on top of paying the government. As well, I highly suggest that you kind of do a rough calculation beforehand, before you file your taxes. That way you know how much you owe. So I did that this year. I knew with COVID and everything, my husband had to temporarily be self-employed, which means nobody withheld any taxes from him for more than half the year. Which means that we would probably owe taxes at the end of the year. And so I did a rough calculations for me and him, and I realized, well, I'm actually going to be the one owing taxes. And so I went to the CRA website, figured out how to pay them through my bank. And so I paid them. And now when it comes time to file my taxes, we'll actually be getting some of that money back, just due to the way that everything falls on a return.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know that there are multiple ways to kind of take care of amounts owing. Like you said, you can kind of figure it out beforehand and kind of prepay But also, if you do file your taxes and you end up owing money, it's really great to know that they're willing to work with you. If it is a large amount and you can't pay it right off the bat, it's comforting to know that they're willing to set up a payment plan that works for you. And I think that that's what scares people sometimes, is getting, filing their taxes and realizing, oh my goodness, I owe $3,000, let's say. But that's a big chunk of money, right? And so sometimes people might avoid doing that because they don't want to deal with the large amount that they owe. But if people understand, you owe that money regardless, right? Whether you filed the taxes or not, you owe it. But if they know that the government is willing to work with them to set out a payment plan that is going to work with their lifestyle, then they might be more prone to file the taxes on time. So I think that's important for people to know and understand.
Yeah. And something else to, understand as well is that if you owe the CRA money, they are not going to call you and say, we've filed an arrest warrant on you and, everyone, they're not going to threaten that they're going to arrest you and, you're going to have large jail time or anything like that. The CRA will let you know through the My Account, the CRA portal. We'll let you know if you owe anything. They'll send you information through the mail. If you do receive an email from them, it will just be to notify you that they have sent you something on the CRA portal. They won't send you that information directly. So always keep an eye up and make sure that if the communication is from the CRA or if it's from some type of scammer. Like if you're not sure and you get a call from them that's saying, you owe a lot of taxes, give us your credit card information now. If you get that kind of call, just hang up and give the CRA a call directly from the number that is on the website, or log on to the My Portal and see if they have any notices on there that say the amount that is due.
Right. I mean, especially the last couple of years, there have been a lot of CRA scam calls going around that can be scary if you don't know what's going on. So that's a really great point. They should never be threatening you with the police or jail time. They shouldn't be intimidating you. So that's a great tip. If you receive any types of calls like that, go directly to the CRA website, find the phone number that is the authentic phone number, call them directly, and then you'll know if there's actually an issue or not.
Yeah.
So a lot of people file their taxes on their own if they're single. But do you need to file your taxes together if you're married or common law? That's a question I'm sure some people are wondering, if they're going to be newly married or fall into the common law bracket.
Yep. So when it comes to whether or not to file as married, obviously, if you're married throughout the whole year, you got to file as married. But if you got married during the tax year, for example, if somebody got married in 2021 because, they're madly in love with them and they couldn't wait till the pandemic ended, you were married. What is your marital status on December 31st or 30th, the end of December? What is your status then? If you're married by the end of the year, you need to file as married. With common law, it can kind of be a bit of a gray area. Normally, if you've lived with each other, you live in the same house, you have, you share expenses and things like that for at least 3 months or more. And then you are considered common law and you can file together. And it's pretty much the same way as being married. You kind of get the same benefits having the common law and married.
Right. What kind of credits can you get if you're married?
So if you're married, you can transfer some of the personal amount of credits. So if you've ever looked at a tax return, at the top of where the credit section starts, there'll be a basic exemption amount that each person gets. If you're married or common law, you can transfer that amount much more easily to your partner or spouse. That being the main one, as well as if you're taking care of them, you can get that caregiver amount much more easily than if you were, two strangers helping each other.
Okay. That's good to know. So now we're at the point we filed our taxes. Everything's out of our hands now. Typically, when should you expect your return?
So if you have filed an electronic return by yourself through software such as TurboTax or some of those filing ones on the desktop, you can expect to receive a notice of assessment and a statement of if you're getting a refund by 2 to 4 weeks. If it's closer to the heart of April, the heart and the end of April, then it might be a little bit longer than that, but that's generally the window that they try and aim for. If you, the same as if you filed through a tax preparer, 2 to 4 weeks from when they filed the return. If you decide to file through paper because you don't believe in electronics, it can take up to 10 weeks to receive that. Now, this does not include if you've applied for certain credits, such as the child benefit credit or the disability tax credit. Those have completely separate time frames from when they will be estimated and paid out to you.
So it's definitely preferable to be filing electronically. And another great tip, if you're able to, is to sign up for direct deposit. Instead of waiting for a check in the mail, which is going to take longer than an automatic direct deposit, then I would definitely recommend signing up for that. You get your return much faster, and it's already in your bank. You don't have to go deposit a check.
Yep. And you can do that through the CRA website, or if you're using a software yourself, there will be an area where you can enter in your direct deposit information, as well as if you're using a tax preparer, you can give them a copy of a void check or give them the direct deposit information, and they can do it from their end as well. So definitely, they try and make it as easy as possible for you to be able to set up direct deposit.
Right. Yeah, make it easy and make it efficient, right?
Yep. Something else to keep in mind when it comes to refund is if you've had a couple of years and you don't know if you were actually due a refund, you can log on to My Account on the CRA website. And there's a little section on the right where it says, goodness, what does it say? Something about deposits or checks or something like that. And it will let you know if you have actually been missing out on some money on some checks that were maybe sent to you and never deposited. They will be listed there, and you can either have them resent to you or directly deposited into your bank account. So definitely check those and make sure you're not missing out on some payments.
That's a great tip. We definitely don't want to miss out on any of those. Can you think of any other advice that, the common taxpayer may want to know?
Well, you mentioned something earlier today when it comes to common law that I thought was interesting that I didn't actually know. You want to share that?
Sure. So if you are in a relationship, you live with somebody. Now, this could be less than the actual amount of time in common law. But the moment that you have a baby with somebody and you're living together, you automatically become common law. So it changes your status. So I thought that was interesting. That's what happened to myself before I was married. And that's going to affect your taxes. You need to update your status. So anybody who didn't know that, once you have a baby with someone and you're living together, you're common law.
Good to know, because then it can help you, because the CRA looks at both parents' income level to determine that child benefit amount. So that's probably the main reason they declared you as common law.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense. It's also important to make sure you're adding your dependents on CRA as well. It's super easy to do once you're logged in, but that way you can make sure that you are getting all the benefits for yourself and your children, and making sure that they're claimed as your dependent.
Yep. Get that money for raising kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you have any other questions, comments, jokes?
Jokes. Well, that's more my dad's thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I don't know. This has been really informative. I definitely learned a lot talking about this stuff with you today. I hope our listeners did too. What about you? Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, nothing else that I can think of. If anybody else has any questions or comments, put them in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or shoot us a message if you're listening to us on the podcast. Shoot us a message, let us know your thoughts, and leave a review if you feel so inclined. Share, like, and subscribe, and we will hopefully hear from you, and you will hear from us next time.
And just remember, if you don't know where you are going, any road will get you there. Success is easier than you think. All you have to do is ask us.
So ask us your questions, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.